Shalom. This is Yair Davidiy speaking to you from the land of Israel. We are now about to give you a short overview of the book of Isaiah, and this present talk will be concerned with chapters 1 to 20. We'll give you a few outlines and brief words of explanation, and later on you will find more and more video clips and articles going into this in more detail. Isaiah was the son of Amos, and he was the son of Kematziah of Judah. Therefore Isaiah belonged to the house of David. He was a descendant of King David. Isaiah prophesied over the space of more than 60 years, and he lived during the period when the lost 10 tribes were exiled from their land. The book Isaiah, in his prophecies, he moves from one subject to another, from one time period to another. He talks about the time of his own time, contemporary events, things that were going on with him in his age, or about to happen shortly afterwards, but he extrapolates from what is happening then to what will happen in the future. Also in the future, he describes the coming of the kingdom of the Messiah, of the end times, but he will describe how things will be better in the time of the ruler of the future Messiah in the end times, and then he will skip backwards to how things were really bad just beforehand, and he goes to and fro. So, and you have to figure out from the context what exactly he's talking about, what exact era he is speaking of, he is applying himself to. Isaiah begins his prophecy concerning Judah and Jerusalem. He says that the people of Israel are children of the Almighty, but they do not act in that way. They act as a sinful nation, physically and ecologically suffering for their sins. He says righteous rulers, judges and counselors will come forth and show us the way to redemption. See chapter 1, verses 26 to 27. Isaiah applies himself often to Judah and Jerusalem, but also here and there he also applies himself to the lost 10 tribes, directs his attention to the lost 10 tribes, and he speaks to all of them. He says that in the end times the temple will be rebuilt, and all the peoples of the world will come up to Jerusalem to receive instruction. See Isaiah chapter 2, verses 2 to 4. He also directs his attention to the lost 10 tribes. He says that the house of Jacob, the sons of Yaakov, Jacob, Aaron, called upon to go in the way of the Almighty. Verses 2, verse 5. Chapter 2, verse 5. Until now the house of Jacob, that is the USA, the Yanks, the name Yankee, the name applied to Americans, is derived from the Hebrew pronunciation of Yaakov or Yankov. It's similar to the word Jack in English. Also we have the Union Jack, which is the symbol of the UK, or the British Isles. He says to the house of Jacob, they have denied their Israelite origins. They will have denied their Israelite origins. They will claim that they are not descended from the lost 10 tribes of Israel. That is what Isaiah is telling us. That is what is happening today. He says, you have rejected your people. See 2 verse 5. He says that they have denied the Israelite origins, and they have denied their brotherhood with Judah. And they have followed foreign pagan practices. Eastern fashions will have been fashionable. See 2 verse 6. The house of Jacob is immensely wealthy and full of automobile chariots. 2:7. Their culture is materialistic and emphasizes acquisition of wealth in an idolatrous way. They want money, they want good things, they want what money can buy, and this to them is a form of idolatry, of worshipping foreign idols. That's what Isaiah tells us. See 2:7. Their culture is materialistic and they disregard human dignity. See 2:9. They will try to take refuge in underground shelters from the wrath of God. See 2:10. Atomic bombs and the like. may rain down upon them, and they will try to burrow under the earth in order to achieve some degree of protection. He also condemns them because of that women and children will have ruled over them because of their sins. This is a punishment. See 3:12. He also condemns the oppression of the poor people. He condemns deliberate sexual provocation by women, which brings disaster upon Zion. See 3:15 onwards. And also know that the word term Zion, depending on the context, sometimes applies to the Jewish people, to the state of Israel, but at other times it may also apply to Joseph, as we find in the Midrash. It says that those who survive in Zion and Jerusalem will be sanctified and upraised by the Almighty. 4:2-3. We will be rehabilitated. God will have mercy upon us. A supernatural cloud by day and a fire by night will appear over the physical area of Mount Zion. And then he goes back. He flits back to and forth from one scenario to the other. He says, because of their offences, the people of the Almighty are sent into exile due to their own lack of knowledge. Hunger will strike them both in the physical and the spiritual sense. See chapter 5, verse 13. The best families will perish. Verse 5:14. At this stage, God will be exalted, but it is a recurring theme in Isaiah that out of the depths of despair and destruction and disaster comes redemption. There's always hope. He says that it was destined that people would hear but fail to comprehend until it will be too late, and the whole land shall be desolate. See 6:11. Only a tenth will remain, and they too will undergo severe tribulation. See 6:13. Isaiah then describes how the non-Israelite heathen nation king of Aram in his own time, that is Syria, or the area to the north of the land of Israel, and the king of the northern entity of Israel, that is the 10 tribes. There were 12 tribes of Israel. These 12 tribes divided into two different sections. The northern section was the kingdom of Israel. The southern section was the kingdom of Judah. From the kingdom of Judah derived the present-day Jewish people, and Judah and Jerusalem, and Mount Zion also were in that area. And in the north were the 10 tribes, and the 10 tribes were taken away by the Assyrians, so exiled and lost consciousness of their ancestry. But they nevertheless, physically, they stayed together, and they moved. They moved to the north and they moved to the west. Different stages, different groups of them, but they all recoalesced, reconverged on the same areas in the west of Europe. From there they populated North America, Australia and New Zealand. And also in South Africa we find descendants of those tribes of Israel. There were no gloom for Israel at the time of redemption. In former times, that is before his time, the exile had already begun. The exile had begun with the lands of Zebulun and Naphtali being taken into exile. And then more severely, other sections of the Israelite nation have been taken over the sea, by way of the sea, also across the Jordan, to the west and to the east, in other words, the highlands of the nations. They've been taken to different areas, but we have shown in our studies how from these different areas they moved, they kept on moving until they all came together in the west of Europe. That is where the descendants are to be found there, and also in the offshoots of West Europe overseas. And Isaiah describes this. He says, in their places of darkness and exile, the 10 tribes will suddenly have achieved freedom. See 9:2. They will multiply greatly and throw up the yoke of their oppressor. 9 verses 3-4. The Israelites will be mighty warriors, says Isaiah 9:5. And a great leader will from childhood be destined to lead with divine inspiration. 9:6. His rule of justice and righteousness will last forever. Will last forever. He will sit on the throne of David. 9:7. Israel will have been as numerous as the sands of the sea, but only a remnant will survive, or will have survived a destruction that will come upon them. See 10-22.